So today I want to talk all about getting your time back. It's so important. I had so many conversations, and one in particular on Wednesday, which sort of triggered this topic with me. And I thought, let's talk about this because I have spoken about this. There's sessions there where I speak about this, but let's try and see, how can we get our time back? And that's what today is going to be about. So it is all about outsourcing. It is about different areas of your business that is probably ripe for outsourcing, and that's a good idea to outsource. But we're also going to go through why you should, what you can look at, what you should consider, and then give you some tips that you can maybe go and use. But before we do, let's get the show started properly. I'll see you on the other side of this.
This is Propulsion, the podcast for forward-thinking and driven and ambitious financial planning professionals. It is the catalyst to the exponential growth of your financial planning practice, your business, or your franchise. This is where professionals come in order to learn about the latest technology, to learn about best practice when it comes to running and managing their business, as well as marketing, sales, relationship building, the best and most valuable interviews with local and international guests, and a whole host of other things. Without any further ado, here is your host, Francois du Toit.
Alrighty, so yes, let's have a chat about outsourcing, and where I want to start is really just talking about why is it an option in the first place, and why is it something that you need to consider is sort of the latter part or the second part to that. When is it an idea? And I had a very interesting conversation, well, a few of them in the last while around this specifically, because a lot of us feel like, we've gotten to that point where I can't do everything myself anymore. But also, do I really want to do everything myself just because I can and whatever the case may be? So these conversations have been coming up for a lot of people. And I don't really care like how small or how big your business is, how new or how experienced you are, or where you are in your journey. It doesn't matter. In my opinion, there's always a situation where outsourcing is an option. Now, the first sort of reason for me that it is an option is that you probably have too few resources. If you are working too many hours in a day and you feel you're getting tired, you can feel, you're spending too much time behind the computer instead of in front of clients, then, that's a clear reason. And once we know that we need something or someone, then it does come to that point where, okay, what do I do? The other sort of thing is like, if you think about the cost of recruiting someone, so it's the time to do the advert, to look for people, to go through all the interviews with them. And still at the end of the day, you don't know whether you're making the right decision. For some people that is perfectly fine. Others go, I don't think it's worth the cost at this point, depending on what the job is that needs to get done by this person. But the cost of recruitment is also something that one would consider. And it's not only, sort of if you get somebody to help you recruit, what is that going to cost? It's also more about the ongoing cost of that person that you've recruited, right? It might also be that the work that needs to get done or the problem that needs to get solved is one of seasonality. So it is something that, for 3 months out of the year, I am extremely busy with certain things and I need help, but the other 9 months I'm fine. So it could be a seasonality thing. It could just be, whatever it may be. So that would be another reason. It might also very well be that the skills you are looking for is very hard to find. And the people who do have the skills charge an arm and a leg because they can, because of supply and demand. So in that case, again, you go back to sort of almost seasonality or how much time you would need that person for or those skills for, that it might very well be worth it to rather outsource it. You also get to that point where you sort of on that fence where, there's too much work for me, but it's not too much work. So it's just too much for me at this stage, and I don't want to be spending all these hours. But also, it's not enough work to keep one person busy full-time just doing that. So hopefully that makes sense. So that is another thing where, okay, so I don't need somebody full-time. Basically, I need somebody part-time. And then, do you want to go and recruit somebody permanently on a half-day basis, for example, those kind of things. I mean, I think a big reason to sort of consider outsourcing as an option is all the HR stuff. So human resource stuff, so managing leave and payrolls and, all the things that go with that, depending on how you run and do your business. Once it gets to things like maybe they're not performing, etc. So all of those management things that needs to happen. But those could all be reasons. And I mean, obviously they're not enough reasons, because so many businesses and so many financial planning practices and financial advisors and planners do appoint staff permanently, and they go through this and they need somebody and they want that person to be dedicated to them. They don't want to share them with anyone else because it makes sense for them. So it's not to say that that's not the way to go. Absolutely. But if some of these things are an issue with where you are at the moment, or things like you need a specific skill for a specific period of time, then outsourcing is obviously the route to go. And I think outsourcing comes in various different forms, from just being, we're going to use some people for certain functions. I think another word for outsourcing could be strategic partnering. Another word for it could be, just contracting someone, freelancing. I think there's all sorts of ways to look just around this. I quickly want to share with you just some stats that is an absolute, like, these are real stuff, right? So let me just share this very quickly. I don't want to do that, Francois. You want to do this. So let me just put this up on the screen quickly for you so that you can see. There we go. All right. So if you just think about something, and I just want to focus just specifically, let's just say, on planning, because this is the conversation I've probably had the most in the last 2 or 3 weeks with people, is around the planning part. You know how many financial planners have said to me, I don't want to do the planning anymore. I don't enjoy that. I enjoy engaging with my client. I want to be talking to them, listening to them, and all of that stuff. I don't want to do this anymore. Now, it's very funny. Like back in 2012, I personally did paraplanning for certain people, and it's something that worked very well for them, but we could never grow it into anything because the time wasn't right. We tried again in 2018. Again, the time wasn't right. And now suddenly I'm having these conversations with people saying, but guys, like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. There's more value adding stuff I can do. Now, the reality is that your planning part is never, ever, ever going to fall away. It will always be part of what you do and a very important aspect for you to consider. But as far as the client is concerned, all they want to know is, and Kobus said it so well the other day in our best practice huddle session on Pro, but that all they want to know is, am I going to be okay? And I've said this on the show before. That's really the only question that a client wants to know. So whether it's when somebody passes away, or he passes away, or she passes away, or whether it's becoming disabled, or whether it's retiring, or, will I be able to go on that holiday? All they want to know is, can I do this? How we get there, they trust you and I to be able to say, well, this is the road we're going to take. This is what it's going to look like. And that's what we are going to do. So first off, if we just focus on planning for a little bit, planning takes time. It takes a lot of time, right? It's gathering the info, it's doing the analysis and the planning, sort of crafting the proposals or the presentations or the report or whatever you want to do it. And I've got a big issue around that as well, which we'll talk about again. I've spoken about that a couple of episodes ago, but I'll get into that again soon. But that for me is the biggest thing. So it's all this time that's taking place. And yes, we can task our assistants with doing certain parts of this. But when it comes to the actual planning, you've got to sit down and spend the time and understand and have a deep understanding of that information. The typical plan based on research takes 10 hours from start to finish. So that's a freaking long time. And a lot of people, and we've seen this, by the way, I helped one of the banks. I consulted to them a little bit when they started doing paraplanning, and we could see that a lot of financial advisors do not want to let go of this part because they don't know how to sort of prove their value to their clients. They feel like the value and what they are getting paid for is this, whereas this is only a very small part of that, in my opinion anyway. So the estimated time that planners spend is 34.5 hours per client in the first year that they become a client. So 34.5 hours that they spend on one client, getting to know them, gathering the info, doing the analysis, onboarding, all of those kind of things. 34.5 hours for every new client. Again, a very big thing of why it's better to do business with existing clients. But at some point, you first got to acquire new clients. So we've got to go through this. High producing advisors, the difference between them and average producing is that high producing advisors spend 80% of their time in front of clients, whereas, oops, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Whereas the average producing advisors spend 80% of their time in front of computers. Right. And these days, even your high producing might be, but that's in meetings and not doing admin. So in today's world, let's just highlight that. And then also the limited knowledge that advisors have does slow them down, and they lose out on opportunities because often you get very good at a very specific area, but the wider sort of financial planning area is not being taken care of. We don't use CPD in the way that it should be used. We use CPD to tick a box for compliance and to stay fit and proper. However, if you look at the wording for CPD, it's meant for you to go and identify where your gaps are. And those are the things that needs to be done from a CPD perspective. So few people do that. So few businesses do that for their people. But that is another thing. Like the knowledge that's probably missing in certain areas are also costing you business, and it's slowing you down. It's probably increasing the 34.5 hours that you need to spend if you first need to get up to date with certain things. So why should you even care? The thing is that the more time you spend with non-client facing activities like admin, answering emails, queries, those kind of things, the higher the cost becomes to serve your clients and to be in business. So obviously there's opportunity cost. If you think about, if you can do one extra deal per month, that's probably about 120,000 Rand on average per year, right? Just one extra deal. That means just having the time to be able to see one extra client a day because you decide to outsource this function that you don't like doing. And if you love doing it, then keep doing it. But if you don't like doing it, if it's become a frustration, then you could do that. If you do one deal a week, for a month, it's 480,000 Rand a year addition, right? So those are the realities of what is possible if you go with outsourcing your planning function, for example. So you get a paraplanner. So whether you appoint a paraplanner, whether you outsource it to a paraplanner, but that is definitely something that can add loads of value. Now, there are also other things, but let's first just think quickly about what to consider. I think some of the things that needs to be considered is the skills in your team at the moment, right? And do they cover everything that needs to be covered from what the client expects and what the client needs point of view? So you've got to go and map those two against each other and say, well, here we are excellent, but here we are falling short. Yet we are still doing the things where we're not up to scratch. It's really disrupting us. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of time that needs to be spent to get this side right whenever there's clients that come along with that. And your option is obviously twofold. Stop doing this stuff and stop working with those clients, or get the skills or outsource it, right? So those are really the options, but we need to consider what are we really good at and what do we really, really enjoy doing, because that becomes the core of what you do. And when you know what the core is of what you do, it's easy to now go and identify other areas, which I'll talk about in a second, that you can now outsource, or that's probably a good candidate for outsourcing. What else is there to consider from this point of view? Well, do you want to take somebody on and train them and bear the cost? And is it going to be worth it? Is the return on that investment going to be better? Do you need them full time? Yes or no? And if not, then probably outsourcing becomes a thing. There's always this piece, and I had a chat. Somebody messaged me yesterday asking about, virtual assistants, for example. So at that point where there's more admin, that's what I said, you're sort of on that line where you want to do you need help, but there's not enough work to keep them busy full time. So you almost just want to use them whenever the need arises. And that's something to consider. If you find yourself in that position quite often, then also something to consider. Right. So for me, I mean, the first thing is to just take stock of the resources that you have at your disposal. Now, I think there's a lot of resources that are available to you as a financial planner, right? Being provided by product providers, by technology providers, by specialist companies like ours, for example. So there's a lot of things that you can do or that you can use that's already in your business's framework, but maybe we don't think about these things. And do we ever have conversations with these? So first of all, if you think about, let's start with a product provider. So whether you're independent or you're tied, it doesn't matter in this instance, right? You have a load of resources at your disposal, be it legal advisors that you can use, be it a broker consultant that you can use. And look, unfortunately, not all broker consultants like advisors and consultants and doctors and name them are equal, right? So some are extremely good and a big part of your business, and others you couldn't care whether they're there or not. So, and that's a reality, right? It's up to that person. But you need to go and write down a list of what does the product providers that you work with, and start with the product providers that you typically support and recommend to clients, because everybody's got this is sort of our main provider for risk, our main provider for investment, our main provider for health. And if we can't come right there, then there's alternative 1 and alternative 2. But start with those and see, what do they have? Have a conversation with your consultant, have a conversation with that manager, and find out, look, I mean, what is it that you offer that we can make use of? And often those things come at no additional cost to you. Sometimes it does. So it depends on that conversation. And also, there's nothing wrong with paying for this stuff. I think it is actually better, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be biased to place more business with a certain company simply because they give you these services. And maybe in some instances, it wasn't a good idea to place the business there. It was better to place it with alternative 1. So, but talk to them and see what is there that you don't have to pay for. If you're already placing the business there, it's a very good idea. So I think that's sort of the first step. The second step would also be, to do that mapping with, this is what our clients are looking for. These are maybe opportunities, but we don't have the in-house skills for that. And identify what those are. Maybe that's accounting and tax. Maybe it's, certain things. So those are the things that we need to go and say, well, what do we have? Then also take stock of what you can do internally already. Maybe one of your staff has some talents and some skills that you're not utilizing because their role is different from maybe what they have a real passion for. So start there before going the outsourcing route. So don't outsource for the sake of outsourcing. In the 7 habits that session that I do, the second thing I talk about is a team. And the third thing is that you should outsource everything else, right? So you start with your team, look at what you've got internally, build it. If you want to develop them into certain things, you want to change people's roles, that is a good strategy. It helps them grow. It helps them advance. It helps them become more valuable for you. So don't sort of avoid that part. So what areas of your business will really benefit from outsourcing in Francois' point of view anyway? So first thing is a big thing, which I believe is becoming more of a thing. I'm seeing it. Bigger FSPs have got this. They've started using this more and more and more. And as they work closer together, they realize just how much value there is in having this person do all their plans for them. So paraplanning. Paraplanning is a massive, massive thing. And what you could do, like let's just say, because paraplanners are expensive, right? So, I mean, you need somebody who has your knowledge or better, right? But then that comes at a cost. They just don't like working with clients. They want to work with the data, do the analysis and create the scenarios and do the comparisons and things. That's what they want to do. Also important, by the way, to get the right definition for what a paraplanner is. It's not a glorified admin assistant, right? It's not about somebody putting things into your system. This is a person that can apply their mind to the situation at hand. They also have a deep understanding, but they do all the calculations, all the trend analysis, all of those kind of things. So that's what they do. So paraplanning is a big one. General admin. If I talk general admin, it could be very simple things like, I don't know, what is there? There's so many things. I'm thinking about my business now. So there's all these things that one can do. There's just general admin, right? So whether it is answering emails, whether it is, sort of tidying up your virtual file cabinet, whatever it may be, filling in forms, sending forms to clients, getting forms back, following up on medicals. Those kind of things are very, very easy for anyone basically to do. So that general admin stuff that is keeping some of your most talented, most skilled, most valuable employees busy, and yourself, if you don't have any of those, or maybe even if you do, you're still so involved in this and you shouldn't be, then you must look at, can I either appoint someone that can come and do this, or do I outsource it to someone like a virtual assistant, for example? Then the other thing, and here's a big thing, like I have a problem with this because I love IT, I love technology. So I want to sort out all my stuff myself, right? I build all sorts of things. I learned to put certain things together that most people won't do unless you're a specialist in that field, just because I'm curious. But I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be spending my time looking at why is my learning management system not working? Why is the certificates, like all that stuff should go to someone who does that for a living. So technology and IT support is definitely something that needs to be outsourced, even if you have a big love for it. And I'm talking to myself right now. But if something goes wrong, you pick up the phone, you phone someone and say, come and sort this out. So I know of many of you that do that, but I'm also sure that there's many of you who try and sort it out yourselves. Don't get involved. It's not worth your time. And it's going to take you much longer to sort it out usually than it would take somebody who does that for a living. Then the last two things are also big for me. The one is revenue management. And I'm not talking about because one of the things I said to my accountant in the week that, I remain accountable at the end of the day for my finances, for the performance of the business, for whatever we submit to SARS, whatever goes, like it's my accountability. So yes, my wife deals with it. They deal with it. They talk to each other. I don't want to be involved in meetings. I don't want to, if there's issues, they need to sort it out. However, I still need to know what is going on. So there's those two parts, right? So revenue management is something that you can do yourself. You can't get all the information in whatever way, shape, or form. You can have a spreadsheet. You can use ComSpace, whatever it is that you're using, and you can analyze and look at it, right? So from your point of view, the analysis or knowing where your business is strong from a revenue point of view and where it's weak and where the risks are, that is your accountability. That is something that you should know. But getting it to that point can all be outsourced. You can give it to ComSpace and they will run with it for you. It'll cost you a little bit more, but it's absolutely worth it. For what they charge for that is absolutely mind-blowing. But they take everything away from you and they do it for you. And all you need to do is look at the results, look at the data, look at the business intelligence, apply your mind to what you're seeing, and they will even give you input from that point of view. So something like that, if I say source it out, yes, there's an option where you buy the system and you run everything and you get the data in there and you make it your problem, or you can let them do it. So that's the choice. The other thing is also reporting, and this is the biggest thing, and this is probably one of the most regular conversations that I had with smaller FSPs in my 2 years where I worked for one of the tech providers, is that they do not have the resources to take ownership of their data, manage their data, clean up their data, make sure that everything is fine. And yes, you still have the responsibility and accountability for that, but you don't have the resources. So all of these smaller businesses that I've spoken to is asking me, Francois, we're looking to you as a tech provider in order to help us with this. You have the resources, you have the expertise, you have the knowledge. And it's the same with your product provider. It's the same with whoever you work with. That is why you do it, because you're looking for the stuff. So reporting on your investments, for example, with something like Seed, for example, I mean, they are one of the few companies that actually take ownership of the data and clean it up and make sure. It doesn't mean that there's no mistakes, and you still need to look at it whether you're happy or not. But at the end of the day, that is a big thing that is being outsourced. So, having somebody manage your data, right, and making sure where data comes from multiple sources, that it gets into one format, that is absolutely critical. I mean, that's a full-time job. So definitely something that's not the core. Do you need the data? Do you need the business analytics? Do you need to know what's going on? Do you want to make proper business decisions? Absolutely. But spending time on getting the data right, you'll never see any clients. So definitely a big part that is a candidate for outsourcing. Righty. So I think on that note, I'm going to stop. But just maybe a brief summary of where do you start? Well, the one thing is just sit down, right? Whether you go sit at Doppio or Mug and Bean or under a tree in a bush or wherever you go, sit down, take a piece of paper and a pen, draw the different areas of your business, look at what's working, what's not working, look at where you have the skills, where you don't have the skills, and then make a list of these, call them strategic partners that you can that you can talk to and that see like which of their resources can you employ in your business and use, and then what can you get without paying additional for it, and then what is there that you would just have to be willing to pay for those services. One of the big things, I think, big shifts that we made in our business, in the beginning, I was looking for all these things that are for free because of, we knew cash flow, all those solid reasons. But you get to a point where you realize, if I don't pay for stuff, I also can't complain, right? So if you want to be able to complain, if you want to be able to say your say, because really, if you get something for free, how do you go and moan about something that you're not getting? How do you moan about the quality of something? You're not paying for it, so you have no right, in my opinion, to complain about anything. So making that mind shift from, again, like I always talk about, technology is an investment, or it should be an investment and not a cost. Anything you do in your business must help make you money. Whatever technology you employ, whatever thing you're outsourcing, whoever you get to help you, whatever you pay for it, it must come back at least double for what you've paid. If it's not making you money, you shouldn't be doing that. So thank you very much. I'll be back next week, same time, same place, hopefully with power. And wishing you a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, be blessed, and prosper. And remember to continue to always raise the bar.
Thank you for listening. Remember to check out the live show, Propulsion Live, on YouTube every Friday at 7 a.m. South African time. You can find it at www.propulsion.co.za/live. That's propulsion.co.za/live. And please remember to subscribe, share with your colleagues, your friends, and anyone who may find value like you did in this podcast. Once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.